welcome back to episode 2 of Healthy Selfish. So today we're talking all about impact, right? And so that is how boundaries really do feel and what happens when we don't have them. Also what happens when we do have them, right? And so what's the impact of boundaries on our lives? Why do we want them? And what's going to happen because we have them? So before we get into that, just a reminder, I am your host, Monique Selman, and the owner of Becoming Enriched. I am a therapist, and I am so excited to share some of the mental health education with you guys today. Right, this whole series is focused on boundaries and how we can use them to help improve our lives. Right, if taking care of yourself feels selfish, you need to be here. We're going to learn how to not be selfish and still be healthy, how to choose ourselves and make that start feeling really good. So let's dive in. So why does being easygoing leave so many people exhausted, right? If it's good for us, if we're supposed to be doing this, right? If we're supposed to be flexible, why doesn't it feel good, right? It's because being easygoing is only good up to a certain point, right? And so one of my favorite phrases is everything in moderation. We should be easygoing sometimes, but we also need preferences. We need to be able to say we do not like things or we do like things. And so when you might have been praised for flexibility or selflessness, we will tend to, do more behavior that shows selflessness, right? That shows flexibility. And often you'll continue to be praised for it. And that's something that is really addictive, right? Compliments can get addictive. It can feel like we're looking for that praise. We're looking for that affirmation, right? We want other people to say, yeah, absolutely. Like, we thank you. We appreciate you so much. You've been so great. Like, it's been so easy. And while those things might be true, how do you feel even after you've done all these flexible and easygoing and selfless things? Are we still feeling good about it? Are we feeling good about ourselves? Are we feeling good about the people around us? Or are we feeling confused because I'm the only one being flexible? How's that adding up, right? If everybody loves flexibility, why is it just me, right? And so that's what we really want to understand is yes, being easygoing helps, but up to a certain point, right? A lot of times people who are easygoing are only easygoing because we're trying to avoid some kind of conflict, right? We don't want to get into an argument or get someone upset with us. And so it's important to recognize that being easygoing might be a defense mechanism. It might be how you have been taught to, stop other people from being upset with you. It might be how you were taught to convince people that you are worthy or that you should belong, right? It might be exactly how you were able to belong in a friend group. But as you age, it's so important for you to understand that the people who really should be in your life are the people who allow you to stop being easygoing and have preferences. And so when we are avoiding conflict, you will pay for it later, right? You don't get to just escape conflict, right? Our wants and our preferences will always come back. They do not disappear, right? They just fester on the inside. And so, if being easygoing is so good, why does life feel worse without boundaries? Let's see. So the real cost, right? Cash, right? Brass tacks. What does it do? People pleasing, right? People pleasing is a real cost of boundaries, right? Or a lack of boundaries, right? When we have them, you can see the real impact in your life, right? People get comfortable with your behavior, right? It starts to breed entitlement, right? They start to come to expect things rather than to be happy with things. So a good example of this is a client that I had a few years ago. So she had a younger sister and the whole family kind of babied her. She was maybe 4 or 5 years younger than the other siblings. And because she was the baby, she got so used to other people just saying yes, because when she was young, it was easy things to say yes to, right? Oh, well, can I have a little bit of your food, right? Can I borrow this shirt, right? Can you buy me this thing? But that's really cute when you're like 5, 6, 7. That gets very annoying when you're in your 20s, right? And so my client kept going, right? They kept giving, and they kept losing clothes to their sibling. They kept losing money to their sibling. The sibling kept acting like it was their due, like they deserved all of these things. And like my client kept giving them and was like, I'm so annoyed. And I was like, why don't you just say that? And I was like, well, no, because like she's so used to it and like we've done this forever. And I was like, well, you are feeling the impact of not being willing to set that boundary and say no firmly, right? There is a real cost, right? It started to ruin their relationship because my client no longer wanted to invite her sister over because she always felt like money or clothes were going to be missing at the end, right? She didn't want to hang out with them when they were going out to dinner because she was like, well, you're going to get this, right? Like you're going to pay for me, right? And it would just build a lot of that resentment for her because she could not understand why her sister did not see the impact that her lack of boundaries was having on the sister. And I had to communicate to her, like, other people don't know where your line is. Other people don't know what your boundaries are. And so it's important that, like, as you are giving and giving and giving, you are also starting to find, right? So when was too much? When did you notice that you were like, that was annoying? That's where the boundary is supposed to be, right? And by that point that she had came to me, she was already building up significant resentment for her sister. And so that's impact number 2 and the real cost, right? To resent a sibling who you genuinely do love really wrecks the relationship, because each time she saw that her sister was getting a new thing and like she didn't pay her back or she didn't give her clothes back, you could just feel like, yeah, right? It was it was one of those feelings where she just felt it bubbling up. It was so many like tiny cuts that, right, that resentment really did start to hamper their relationship. They did not talk as often, right? When they did talk, it was much more guarded. And so she had explained how she started feeling the changes in their relationship and how that was not how she wanted to interact with her. The hard part was she also didn't want to set the boundaries. She didn't want to feel bad. She didn't want to make her sister feel bad. And she also thought that her family would be a part of it too. That was like, oh, well, you should just give it to her. You know how she is. And so when she did start like actually setting boundaries, it took a little bit of time, but like, funny enough, the rest of the family was also very ready to start setting boundaries with that sister also, right? Eventually the sister was able to like have really healthy boundaries together. She stopped paying for so much for her sister, right? Like she did end up getting a couple of her clothes back, but it took a really open, honest conversation about how she was feeling about their relationship to say like, I'm starting to not want to even hang out with you. I'm starting to not even want a relationship with you because of these things. And so it's really important that you recognize not having boundary does lead to negative impacts. Other real costs of a lack of boundaries is burnout and emotional fatigue. It gets exhausting being the person who's always giving. It gets exhausting feeling like there's always something that you need to do or fix or change for somebody else. And so burnout really does happen when we are starting to experience, right, the long-term impact of the lack of boundaries. Burnout typically happens over the course of months to years, right? And so you might have noticed this if you've been in a marriage, right, for a significant amount of time. Maybe your partner does not help you with the day-to-day handlings of the home. Maybe your partner is not emotionally available for you after work to actually have the space to emotionally talk out what you have been going through. And like the more we pile onto our plate, right, the more experience we have that we're not able to process, right? That really is how burnout starts to begin, and you'll feel like exhaustion, you'll feel fatigue, and we'll get into some of the more detailed things of burnout soon. And then last is that constant feeling of being on, right? When we lack boundaries, we feel like we have to like meet everybody's expectation, and we really want to learn how to not do that. So people pleasing, right? We kind of talked about this already, but it's just understanding that like when approval replaces self-trust, right? Our approval from others is more important than how we think and feel about ourselves, right? That it really is a big sign of people pleasing, because we would rather hear someone say good job than I'm proud of myself. And that is a problem. And so with people pleasing, you might notice yourself being prioritizing being liked over being honest, right? Sometimes our friends need to hear the truth. And if you don't have a circle that values honesty, right, you might find yourself just saying like, yeah, it's great, it's fine, don't worry about it, even if that's not how you feel. You anticipate others' needs while ignoring your own, right? We are seeing the other thing, like, oh, well, I think they're gonna need this, or I see that they're missing these things, so I can give them mine. But now you've went without to make sure that someone else has it. If you had extra, that would be great, right? That's how we find that healthy selfish, right? I would love to make sure that you are also taken care of, and I am taken care of. And then people who people please also confuse harmony with safety, right? A lot of times people think that like no news is good news, but sometimes no news is a volcano waiting to explode. And so it's important that we understand that people pleasing is not kindness, it's self-abandonment. You should not be proud to be a people pleaser. The only person I want you to be proud to be pleasing is yourself. So resentment, right? How it builds quietly over time. Resentment is the silent killer of relationships, right? It's when we don't feel like we can say all the things we really want to say. So we're holding them in and we're bottling it up, but it does not leave, right? Our emotions get stored in our body, and we have to find ways to express that. And so when we want to say no, we have to say no. So it comes from saying yes when we actually mean no. Like, oh, well, can you help me move? I'm so sorry, no, right? I don't even move my own stuff anymore. No, I cannot help you move, not with these 30-year-old knees. And so, right, like, yes, it would be nice to do that, but the truth is maybe you actually do not have the body to be moving somebody's couch and refrigerator and laundry and all the extra things, right? And if you did, let's say you get hurt. Let's say you have lost time. Let's say something happens and you will feel the resentment for that person because you said yes when you know you did not want to. And so it grows every time your needs go unspoken, right? Resentment is a huge part of being treated unfairly when we feel like others have constantly gotten their needs met, but our needs are not being tended to. Other people are not asking if we have needs or even considering what that might look like. And so resentment is unexpressed truth. Burnout and the body. So now we're getting into the nitty gritty of like what burnout does to the system. So I'm going to talk about some of the like real symptoms of burnout, right? We're going physical, emotional, and behavioral. So physical, you will feel burnout in your body. It is not just a mental health concern, right? In burnout, you will experience fatigue, headaches, or migraines, right? You might have trouble sleeping or staying asleep or tossing and turning while sleeping, right? You can feel muscle tension. Maybe you are someone who clenches their jaw, right? Or you hold a lot of tension in your stomach, right? We'll feel that in our body. It will tense up, right? You can also have changes in appetite. So that is either overeating and just overindulging for the comfort of food, or the exact opposite where we're not eating, right? We're lacking energy because we're not able to get enough sustenance to really fuel ourselves. Emotionally, right? Some of those things is feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. Like there is nothing that will change or nothing that will make our circumstances better, right? We can feel trapped, right? Feeling like a failure because we don't know how to manage these feelings or even manage life. Often self-doubt is another, right, symptom of burnout because we don't believe that we actually know what's happening. Depression and a lack of motivation are other, right, emotional impacts of burnout. And then last is behavioral, right? You'll start to notice like your behavior changing when you're getting in burnout. We're withdrawing from our friends, we're isolating ourselves, right? We're not performing our normal responsibilities, either at home or at work. Maybe you'll start procrastinating because just the idea of like getting over the hump to start something feels like a mountain. It feels so difficult to even consider starting that we tend to forget to even do the process eventually. You can also start coping, right, with unhealthy substances, whether that's drugs, alcohol, sex, right, food. And last is a difficulty concentrating. It's when you're in burnout, even harder to like manage your day-to-day tasks because we have given up so much. One of the best ways I tell people to avoid burnout is having my life motto, 85 to 93%. I don't want you giving more than 85 to 93% in anything unless it lights you up from the inside. Right. The idea behind 85 to 93% is that we always want to keep about 7 to 15% of ourselves, our energy, our life in reserve for when things are crazy and hectic. So let's say you have to go to work, you're buying a house, right? It's a friend's birthday, you're going on vacation, you have some work to do, there's a huge project that you have to deliver soon. Yeah, you're going to need that extra 7 to 15% because you're going to be moving. But if before that we were already pushing ourselves all the way to 100, we have no extra for when life actually gets hectic. And so on the day-to-day, really think about pulling yourself back just a little, right? 85 to 93% is still an A-B student, okay? And that's good everywhere. And so, the reframe, right? What boundaries actually do. Why are they good, right? Why are we here? Why do we need them? So boundaries don't actually create conflict, right? Now, conflict can happen when you're having boundary conversations because some people don't want you to have boundaries, but they are not the creators of conflict. Boundaries are actually here to preempt, right? Preventative care to stop conflicts from happening. Because if someone knows that you don't like this early, they are able to avoid that maybe landmine and act differently or accordingly to what might make you most happy. They are not required to do this, right? It is nobody's responsibility to make us happy. However, right, when we set up good boundaries with people who care and love us, right, it helps to lower the amount of conflicts. Boundaries also prevent long-term damage, right? And that's that resentment and burnout we're talking about, right? Some people have or the lack of boundaries, blah. Okay, hold on, we're gonna cut that back and we're gonna do prevent long-term damage. Boundaries also prevent long-term damage, right? And that's that burnout and resentment we're talking about. So if you have lacked boundaries for years in your relationship, right, all of that resentment and burnout's happening. So that is years potentially of, right, a negative relationship, even if it's just a negative relationship on one side, right? Being able to start afresh and having good, healthy boundaries will make sure that that relationship grows and develops in a way that you both feel happy about. It also reduces resentment, y'all. Let me tell you, right? We want to lower resentment. We want to lower how unfair you feel like you are being treated in life. Now, one thing my daddy has told me is life is not fair, and I have learned that to be very true. However, right, it's one thing for life not to be fair. It is another for other people to take advantage of, right, fairness. And so we do want to make sure that we are reducing resentment. And right, Boundaries also protect our energy before burnout hits, right? If we're able to say no, if we are only able to manage the things that we want to manage, right, there will be no burnout. And so what changes when boundaries exist? Clearer communication. Sometimes that it just looks like, hey, you remember when I said that I don't like this? And someone will be like, oh, yes, absolutely. I'm so sorry, right? That's the kind of relationship we want. I have a friend who does not like to be called a certain cuss word. And I am the person who might say that sometimes. Now, right, I know this, and she always jokes that I'm like the exception to the rule because I always say it in such a loving and joking way. And she's like, it's fine. Like, Monique will do it and it's okay. Cause it never feels bad when she does it. I still don't do it, right? Now, I might slip up every now and again, but I don't do it because she does not like it. She has communicated that to me. She is a dear friend, and that's good enough for me, right? I'm willing to do that for her, even if she says it's okay, because she prefers it to not happen, but she is okay with it happening. Now, I understand that. It is clear, right? Our relationship has been stable for over 10 years because when a person is able to communicate what they like and what they do not like, and you have a friend who loves you and who cares enough to try, right? It helps the relationship be steady because we know that in the times where there is a slip up, it is not intentionally or malicious, right? It simply is a slip up. It also helps with less emotional chaos. Are you a chaos monster? Are you one of those people where there's always drama, something's always wrong, right? Things are going up, down. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know how they act like this. I don't know why they always do that. Have you told them that you don't like it? Have you told them that they need to stop, right? And if you did tell them that they need to stop, did you change? Did you do something different when they kept doing it? Or did you stay in that same pattern and keep doing the same thing, right? Boundaries do not matter if we do not enforce them. Boundaries, if we are just suggestions until we do something about it. And then last is greater internal peace. We want to feel good about ourselves. I want to feel like I can protect my own feelings, my own values, right? The things that are important to me. Like, I prove to myself that I love me enough to say, yes, Monique, you get that. Yes, Monique, you don't have to do that. Yes, Monique, you get to choose what you want, right? Being happy with yourself really is one of the main things that you're going to get from boundaries, because it's going to make sure that you are not giving when you don't want to be giving. So not because life is easier, but because life will end up being more honest. That is really the benefit of boundaries. And so now, homework, as usual. Yes, we will always have a little bit of homework at the end of class. So, right now, I want you to ask yourself, where am I leaking energy right now? What is draining me? What's pulling from me? Where am I giving more than 85 to 93%? Is it to kids? Is it to your work? Is it to your relationship, right? Is it to anything that's not yourself or anything that's not something that lights you up from the inside out, right? If you are noticing that you're giving a little bit too much, what can you take off your plate? What can change? Are there people who you can delegate some tasks to? Are there tasks that we can just say like, well, you know what? This is going to be a next month problem. I do not feel like I have it in me to be able to manage this right now. And so, right, toss it off to the side, right? Are there specific things that we can do right now to help get some of that energy back? And so I always say that's closing your loops. Sometimes we have mental loops that stay open. Like maybe you have a bill that you need to pay and you just keep reminding like, oh yeah, I have to do that. Oh, I still haven't done that. Oh, I still have to do this. Close the loop, do the thing, right? The more we can close our loops and get rid of things, the less energy we will be leaking in life, right? And that could also be if you need to follow up with someone, right? If you need to tell them, actually, I won't be able to make it to your party. Sorry, I'm busy the day of your baby shower, right? Close those loops so you're not using that energy where you don't need to be. And then the next one is going to be a journal prompt, right? Who benefits when you don't have boundaries? It clearly ain't you. Just if let me throw a little answer up here. It's not you, okay? Like, before you put that on the paper, don't. So who benefits, right? Who's getting, right, the actual good end of the stick? Because your lack of boundaries means that you are getting the short end of the stick. And so think about the people in your life, right? Who has benefited the most? Who feels like they are like showing up when like things are always like with their hand out? And so really just think about it, because this is going to show who you might need to be setting boundaries with in the future. Overgiving always has a cost, even if it feels noble. So the point of this episode, boundaries don't mean you care less. They just mean you're finally included in the care. We need to care for ourselves, right? Healthy selfish means that we consider ourselves first before we consider others, right? You have to make sure that you are in the equation. What do you want? What do you deserve? When will you get your time? Even if after we have done all of the mental math and we choose someone else, right? Where are you going to fall in this, right, totem pole? It should not be last. You should not be last on your own totem pole, right? You have to, at medium, be top 3 regularly, okay? And so, right, we want to make sure that you are part of your own care. And so thank you so much for your time. It has been great to be with you guys again today. So just as a reminder, we do want to always be thinking about the impact of our boundaries on our lives. And so if you would like to connect with me, I would love to talk to you. You can find me at Becoming Enriched on all platforms: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the things. And I will see you next time. Again, I'm Monique Selman with Becoming Enriched. Bye.